Hi, welcome to the Aftermath Tales. Ready for a new story? Very well, let's begin.
I never thought my own sister would destroy the house I worked so hard to buy. But when I walked through my front door after a year in Oregon and saw the shattered picture frames, the holes punched in the walls, and the smell of stale beer and cigarettes soaked into everything I owned, I knew Ada had finally crossed a line there was no coming back from. My name is Pam Henderson, and I'm 28 years old. I work as a manager at Apex Consulting Corp., and up until this disaster, I thought I had my life pretty well figured out. I've got two younger sisters, Sophie, who's 22 and the only one in our family with any common sense, and Ada, who's 24 and has been a walking disaster since the day she turned 18. Our parents died in a car accident 3 years ago, and that's when everything started falling apart. See, Mom and Dad had always spoiled Ada rotten. She was the middle child who somehow convinced everyone she needed the most attention. While I was working part-time jobs in high school and learning responsibility, Ada was getting everything handed to her: new clothes, a car for her 16th birthday, money whenever she asked for it. Our parents paid for her college, her apartment, even her grocery bills when she was supposedly studying but was really just partying. Sophie only got Ada's hand-me-downs, which obviously didn't fit her because my mom would always say money was tight. When Mom and Dad passed, the gravy train stopped completely. It turned out our parents had been living beyond their means to keep up with Ada's expensive lifestyle. After paying off their debts and handling the funeral costs, there was barely $3,000 left to split between the three of us. $1,000 each. Ada was furious. She actually had the audacity to argue that she deserved all of it because Sophie and I had jobs and could take care of ourselves. The entitlement was staggering. Here I was, working 60-hour weeks to afford my own place, and Sophie was struggling to pay for community college while working retail, but somehow Ada, who had never worked a day in her life, deserved our shares too. I ended up splitting my $1,000 between Sophie and Ada, $500 each, just to stop the fighting. Sophie refused to give Ada any of her portion, and I didn't blame her. So Ada got $1,500 total, which she complained wasn't enough. She actually said we were being selfish and that families should stick together. The $1,500 lasted Ada exactly 3 days. 3 days of shopping sprees and bar tabs while I was working myself to the bone to save up for a down payment on my house. Ada had no idea how to function in the real world. That's when she met Tom Larson, 26 years old and proud of the fact that he'd never held a job for more than 3 months. A real charmer who spent his days drinking beer and playing video games while Ada enabled him. They moved in together, and suddenly I was getting phone calls every month. Pam, we're a little short on rent this month. Pam, the electric bill is higher than we expected. Pam, Tom's looking for work, but it's really hard right now. Sophie caught on to the pattern before I did. She cut them off after Ada had the nerve to ask her for $300. Sophie, who was working retail and barely making ends meet in her tiny apartment with a roommate. When Sophie found out Ada was spending the money on parties instead of bills, she told Ada exactly where she could shove her sob stories. That's when Ada started focusing all her attention on me. I should have listened to Sophie's warnings. I should have said no when Ada called me last February, crying about how they were getting evicted and had nowhere else to go. But here's the thing about family. Even when you know better, even when every logical part of your brain is screaming, "Don't do it," you still want to believe that this time will be different. This time they'll be grateful. This time they'll get their act together. So when Apex offered me the opportunity to spend a year in Oregon setting up our new Portland branch, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I said yes to both opportunities, the promotion and Ada's desperate plea for help. "It'll just be for a little while," Ada promised me over the phone, her voice thick with tears that I now realize were probably fake. "Just until we get back on our feet. I swear, Pam, we'll take care of everything. We'll pay all the bills. Keep the house clean. You won't even know we were there when you get back." I believed her. God help me, I actually believed her. The first month seemed to prove me right. Ada sent me photos of the clean house, receipts showing they'd paid the utilities, even a picture of Tom supposedly filling out job applications at the kitchen table. I felt vindicated, proud even. Maybe Ada was finally growing up. Maybe losing mom and dad had taught her something about responsibility. By the second month, the calls started. Pam, I'm so sorry, but Tom's job interview didn't work out, and we're just a tiny bit short on the electric bill. I sent the money. What choice did I have? I was 1,200 miles away, and the thought of my house getting the power shut off because of a tiny shortfall seemed worse than just handling it myself. Month 3. The water heater broke. We need to fix it right away. Month 4. Tom threw out his back and can't work for a few weeks. Month 5. My car broke down and I can't get to job interviews without it. Every month brought a new crisis, a new excuse, a new reason why they couldn't quite manage to adult their way through basic responsibilities. And every month, like an idiot, I transferred money from my account to theirs, telling myself it was temporary, that they'd pay me back when they got stable. Sophie tried to warn me. Pam, you're being played, she told me during one of our video calls. I drive by your house sometimes, and there are always cars in the driveway. They're throwing parties while you're paying their bills. But I didn't want to hear it. I was doing well in Oregon. My project was succeeding, and it was easier to just send money than to deal with confrontation from 3 time zones away. By month 10, I'd sent them over $8,000 in emergency assistance. $8,000 that I'd worked 60-hour weeks to earn, money I'd planned to use for a down payment on an investment property. That's when Sophie decided she'd had enough of watching me get played. She drove to my house on a Saturday afternoon in December, not to visit, but to document what was really happening. What she found made my blood boil. Weeds choking my once pristine lawn, trash scattered across the front yard, and Tom sitting on my porch drinking beer with 3 other guys I'd never seen before. The front door was wide open, and from her car parked across the street, Sophie could see straight into my living room, where Ada was passed out on my couch, empty bottles scattered on my coffee table. Sophie was smart enough to take video evidence. She was also smart enough to talk to Mrs. Anderson, my next-door neighbor who'd lived there for 15 years. Those people are horrible, Mrs. Anderson told Sophie, and Sophie caught it all on her phone. There's loud music and parties every weekend, cars parked on the lawn. I haven't seen either of them leave for work once in the 10 months they've been there. Yesterday, the young man was urinating in the front yard in broad daylight. I've been afraid to complain because I didn't know if your sister knew what was happening. What Sophie didn't capture on video, but what she told me about later, was the conversation she overheard as she sat in her car. Tom and his friends were laughing loudly on the porch, and one of them asked how they could afford to party so much without jobs. Easy, Tom had said, cracking open another beer. Ada's got her big sister wrapped around her finger. Just got a call crying about some emergency every month and boom, money in the bank. It's like having rich parents again, except this one's even more gullible. Pam's such a pushover. Oh, Ada, I'm so worried about you. Let me send more money. She actually thinks we're looking for jobs. We haven't even tried in like 6 months. Best year of my life, Tom had said, raising his beer in a mock toast. Free rent, free utilities, free food, and all we gotta do is make up some sob story once a month. Her sister's an idiot. When Sophie called me that night, I could hear the anger in her voice. Pam, I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen. I have proof now, video proof. They're laughing at you. They think you're a joke. And Pam, don't you have security cameras in your house? Maybe you should check what's been happening when you thought they were taking care of things. Oh my God, she was right. I'd installed a security system 2 years ago after a break-in in the neighborhood, but I'd never thought to check the footage. Why would I? I trusted Ada, that foolish girl. I trusted her with all my heart. That night, I logged into the security app on my laptop with shaking hands. The cameras had been recording everything. What I saw made me physically sick. Month after month of footage showed my house being treated like a frat house. I watched strangers track mud through my living room, spill drinks on my carpet, and use my kitchen like their personal bar. I saw Ada and Tom having screaming fights in my bedroom, throwing things at the walls. I saw people I'd never met going through my personal belongings, laughing as they tried on my clothes. But the worst part was the audio, recording after recording of Ada and Tom mocking me. "She's so pathetic," Ada said in one clip, sprawled on my couch with a cigarette dangling from her lips. "Calling every week to check on us like we're children. Are you eating enough? Are you looking for jobs? God, she's so desperate to feel needed." "She deserves to get taken advantage of," Tom replied, putting his feet up on my coffee table. "Anyone stupid enough to pay our bills for a year without asking questions deserves what they get." The footage showed months of disrespect, bringing random people over for parties and treating my home like a rental they'd never have to pay for. My beautiful house, my pride and joy, had become their personal playground. I watched 11 months of betrayal in fast forward, seeing my trust demolished frame by frame. I called Ada immediately. She answered on the fourth ring, and I could barely understand her slurred words. "Hey, Pammy," she giggled into the phone. "What's up, sis?" "Are you drunk, Ada?" I asked. "Maybe a little. We're just having some friends over. Your house is great for parties, you know, really spacious." I hung up. The next morning I called her back. This time she sounded hungover and irritated. "God, Pam, why are you calling so early? Some of us don't have to get up at the crack of dawn." "Some of us have jobs, Ada. Speaking of which, how's the job hunt going?" I asked. There was a pause. It's hard out there right now. The market is really tough." I sighed and said, "Really?" "Because my neighbor tells me you haven't left the house for work once in 10 months. And Sophie saw you yesterday afternoon passed out drunk on my couch while your boyfriend was pissing in my front yard." Another pause, longer this time. "Sophie was here? That little... Don't you dare!" "Sophie's the only one in this family with any integrity. I know about the parties, Ada. I know you and Tom have been laughing about how easy it is to fool me. I know you think I'm an idiot," I said. "Pam, I don't know what Sophie told you, but I have video evidence, Ada. I've seen my house. I've talked to Mrs. Anderson. I know exactly what you've been doing with the money I've been sending you." "Look, we can explain." She tried to explain, but I cut her off. "No. You can pack. I'm done paying your bills. I'm done enabling your pathetic excuse for a life, and I want you and your worthless boyfriend out of my house. You have 2 weeks to get your stuff and go. I want both of you out. You can't just kick us out. We have nowhere else to go." Ada is now screaming. "Should have thought of that before you decided to treat my home like your personal party house and me like your personal ATM. 2 weeks, Ada. After that, I'm changing the locks." I hung up and immediately called my boss to request an early return due to a family emergency. I booked the earliest flight I could get, a red-eye that would get me home the next morning. Sophie picked me up at the airport on a cold January morning, and we drove to my house in tense silence. We both knew it was going to be bad, but nothing could have prepared us for what we found. Ada and Tom were gone, but they'd left me a parting gift that would haunt me for months to come. The moment I unlocked the front door, the smell hit me. A nauseating mix of stale beer, cigarettes, and something else I didn't want to identify. My beautiful granite countertop had a massive crack running straight down the middle, like someone had taken a hammer to it. The kitchen faucet was running full blast into an overflowing sink, water cascading onto the floor and seeping into the hardwood I'd saved for 2 years to install. "Oh my God," Sophie whispered behind me, covering her nose with her sleeve. In the living room, my flat-screen TV lay face down on the floor, the screen completely shattered, glass scattered across the carpet like deadly confetti. My leather couch, the first piece of furniture I'd bought new instead of second-hand, was riddled with cigarette burns. Dark red wine stains covered the cream-colored carpet in abstract patterns that told the story of countless parties I'd unknowingly funded. On the wall behind the couch, someone had drawn a middle finger in black Sharpie next to my name, like a final insult scrawled in permanent marker. It was Ada. I recognized her handwriting. The bathroom was a disaster zone. The toilet was completely clogged, brown water overflowing onto the tile floor and seeping under the baseboards. The mirror above the sink was smashed, reflecting our horrified faces in jagged fragments. But it was my bedroom that broke me. The mattress I'd splurged on for my birthday last year reeked of urine and God knows what else. Holes had been punched through the drywall at eye level, as if someone had taken their anger out on my walls. My bedroom door was hanging off its hinges, the wood around the lock splintered and torn. Even my curtains, simple white panels I'd bought at Target, had been cut into ribbons that hung like surrender flags from the rods. I stood in the doorway of my bedroom, surveying the wreckage of everything I'd worked so hard for, and felt something inside me shatter along with everything else. "That's it," Sophie said, her voice shaking with rage. "We're calling the police. We're suing for every penny they'll ever make," which admittedly isn't much, but still, this is destruction of property, Pam. This is criminal. I couldn't speak. I couldn't even cry. I just stood there, staring at the ruins of my life, wondering how I'd been stupid enough to trust the sister who'd been taking advantage of me since the day our parents died. My phone was in my hand before I even realized I'd pulled it out. I needed to hear Ada's voice. I needed her to explain this, to apologize, to show even a shred of remorse for what she'd done to my life. She answered on the second ring, and I could hear Tom laughing in the background. I put the call on speaker so Sophie can listen. "Oh, hey, Pam," Ada said, her voice sickeningly sweet. "I guess you made it home okay?" "Ada," my voice came out as a whisper. "What did you do to my house?" "What do you mean?" The innocence in her tone was so fake it was insulting. "My countertop is cracked. My toilet is destroyed. There are holes in my walls. My TV is smashed. My bedroom smells like piss. Whoa, whoa, whoa!" Ada interrupted, and I could hear the shift in her voice from fake sweetness to cold indifference. "Don't blame us for your old house falling apart. Maybe if you hadn't been such a bitch about kicking us out, we would have had time to clean up properly." I felt Sophie's hand on my shoulder, steadying me. "Clean up? Ada, you destroyed everything. This isn't mess. This is vandalism." Ada laughed, actually laughed. "You know what, Pam? That's what you get for being so cruel. We needed help, and you threw us out like garbage. You got exactly what you deserved. I gave you a year of free housing and paid your bills for 11 months. My voice was rising now, rage finally breaking through the shock. "I gave you thousands of dollars," I screamed. "And we gave you a year of house sitting. You should be thanking us for keeping your precious house occupied so it didn't get broken into. Though I guess it got broken into anyway," she said with another cruel laugh. "Funny how that works." "You're sick, Ada. You're actually sick." I said, "No, Pam, you're just finally seeing what the rest of us have always known. You're not as important as you think you are. Your house isn't that special. Your money isn't that impressive. And your little perfect life isn't worth protecting. Maybe next time you'll think twice before treating family like dirt." The line went dead. Sophie was staring at me, her face pale with disbelief. Did she really just blame you for this?" I nodded, my hands shaking as I lowered the phone. Even after seeing the destruction, after watching months of security footage showing their contempt for me, I hadn't been prepared for that level of cruelty. Ada wasn't just unrepentant. She was proud of what she'd done. "We're calling the police," Sophie said firmly. "Right now. This isn't just family drama anymore, Pam. This is criminal." We spent the next few hours filing a police report and documenting every inch of damage with photos. The officer was sympathetic but realistic about our chances of getting any real justice. "Property destruction cases are tough," he explained. "Even if we can prove they did it, collecting damages from people with no assets is nearly impossible." 3 difficult months passed. I'd spent my savings repairing the damage, replacing furniture, and trying to make my house feel like home again. Sophie had moved in with me after I got back from Oregon, partly to help with repairs, partly because her lease was up, and mostly because we both needed family we could actually trust. Slowly, we were rebuilding what Ada had destroyed. I was just starting to feel normal again when my phone rang on a Tuesday evening. Ada's name flashed on the screen. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail, but curiosity and maybe a tiny part of me that still hoped she was calling to apologize made me answer. "Pam?" Ada's voice was different this time. Raw, desperate. None of the cruel confidence from our last conversation. "What do you want, Ada?" "I need help." She was crying now, real tears from the sound of it. "Tom cheated on me. With Emma. She's our friend whose couch we've been sleeping on. I caught them together in her bedroom, and now Tom and Emma kicked me out. I have nowhere to go, Pam. I'm literally sitting in my car with all my stuff." I felt Sophie, who was sitting beside me on our couch, tense up. She could hear every word. "And you're calling me because?" I asked. "Because you're my sister," Ada wailed. "I know we had a fight, but family is supposed to stick together. I'm homeless, Pam. I have $23 to my name and nowhere to sleep tonight." The audacity was breathtaking. 3 months after destroying my house and telling me I deserved it, she wanted my help again. "Ada," I said slowly, "you destroyed my home. You called me cruel for asking you to leave. You said I got exactly what I deserved, and now you want me to help you?" That was different. I was angry and no, I interrupted. The word came out firm and final. "You made your choice when you decided to destroy everything I worked for. You chose Tom over your family. You chose partying over responsibility. You chose to be cruel instead of grateful. Live with those choices." "Pam, please, I'm begging you. Please, I have nowhere to go," she pleaded. "Find someone else to take advantage of, Ada. I'm done. Don't you ever call me again." I hung up and immediately blocked her number. 10 minutes later, Sophie's phone rang. "Don't answer it," I said, but Sophie was already swiping to accept the call. "What do you want, Ada?" Sophie's voice was ice cold. I could hear Ada's desperate voice through the phone. "Sophie, thank God. Pam hung up on me. I need help. Tom cheated on me, and I'm homeless and good," Sophie interrupted. "I'm glad Tom cheated on you. I'm glad you're homeless. I'm glad you have nowhere to go." "Sophie, please, I'm your sister," Ada said, now sobbing. "My sister?" Sophie's laugh was bitter. "My sister wouldn't have destroyed Pam's house. My sister wouldn't have spent a year mocking the person who was keeping her off the streets. You're not my sister, Ada. You're a parasite. I made mistakes, but..." "Mistakes? You deliberately trashed everything Pam worked for. You called her pathetic and stupid while she was paying your bills. You told her she deserved to have her house destroyed. Those aren't mistakes, Ada. That's who you are. You're old enough to know what's right or wrong." Ada was sobbing loudly now. "I have $23 and nowhere to sleep? Then maybe you should have thought about that before you burned every bridge you had. You know what? I hope you sleep in your car. I hope you're hungry. I hope you finally learn what the real world feels like when no one's there to bail you out. Sophie, I'm begging you. Please help me." Ada said, "Oh my God, please beg someone else. But you know what? Never mind. No one owes you anything. You made your stupid choices." Sophie hung up and immediately blocked Ada's number too. She looked at me with fierce satisfaction. "How's that for family sticking together?" For the first time in months, I laughed. Really laughed. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." "Too late for Ada to learn that lesson," Sophie said with a grin, "but at least we both finally learned to say no." 2 years later, I got a promotion to regional director at Apex Consulting. Sophie finished her nursing degree and got a job at the local hospital. We still live together in my house. Our house now, really. She helps paying utilities, helps with groceries, and treats the place with the respect Ada never could. We've turned the spare bedroom that used to be Ada's disaster zone into Sophie's study. The walls we repaired are stronger than they were before, and somehow that feels symbolic. Then one day, Ada made one final, desperate attempt to worm her way back into our lives. Sophie and I were both at work when Mrs. Anderson called me, her voice shaking. "Pam, you need to get home right now. That sister of yours broke into your house." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean broke in?" "I saw her jimmying your back door with something. When I yelled at her to stop, she had the nerve to yell back that it was her house too. I called the police, but she's inside right now going through your things." I left work immediately and called Sophie on the way. We arrived at the same time and a police car was already there. Ada was sitting on my couch, our couch, like she belonged there, a trash bag full of what looked like my clothes beside her, drinking Sophie's soda. She was thinner than I'd ever seen her, dirty, and had the hollow look of someone who'd been living rough for months. "This is my house too," she told the officers defiantly when they asked her to explain herself. "These are my sisters. We had a fight, but family is family." "Ma'am, whose name is on the deed?" the officer asked me. "Mine, just mine. She's never lived here legally, and I never gave her permission to enter." Ada's face crumpled when she realized the officers weren't buying her story. "Pam, please, I just needed some of my old clothes. I've been sleeping in my car for weeks." You broke into my house, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. After everything you did, you broke into my house. I was desperate. You wouldn't answer my calls, Sophie blocked me, she said. Because you destroyed Pam's house and laughed about it, remember? Sophie snapped. Did you really think we'd welcome you back? The officers arrested Ada for breaking and entering. As they led her away in handcuffs, she screamed at us from the back of the patrol car. You're not real family. Real sisters don't abandon each other. You'll regret this. Mrs. La Anderson shook her head as we watched the police car disappear. That girl has some serious problems. Good thing I was home to see her. The charges were eventually dropped when Ada pleaded that she was homeless and desperate, but the restraining order we filed wasn't. She's legally forbidden from coming within 500 feet of our house now. Since Mrs. Anderson knows what happened, God bless her, she's been looking out for us. I've learned that true family is defined by actions, not just blood. Sophie showed me what real family loyalty looks like. She earned her place in my home and my life. Ada destroyed hers. I've also learned that sometimes the deepest wounds come from the hands we trusted most. The people who share your DNA aren't always the ones who have your best interests at heart. My house is whole again. My family is smaller, but stronger. And I finally know the difference between helping someone and enabling them. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is teach them the word no.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and drop a comment below. Don't forget to follow for more content just like this. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.